Welcome everybody to the True Crime News. I'm Morgan Rector.
And I am Rachel Telfor.
I'm going to start by apologizing for the quality of the audio on my end last week. Skype was being a dick. It wasn't picking up my USB microphone, so my external microphone's not very good. And also, Rachel, so you listened to the Elizabeth Wettlaufer episode, and you were paying attention when the fart came along?
That episode was very well done. First of all, congrats. Congrats. You always do amazing. But the fart. You deliver it so well and sneak it in there. So I'm kind of listening, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, what? What just happened?
And let me tell you something. When that case first came to light in the Canadian media, well, I saw a picture of her, and she looks so much like this girl I dated many years ago. Like, they look like they could be fucking sisters.
Are you serious?
I'm not joking. In fact, before I found out what her name was, I even wondered if that girl I had dated had gone into nursing and turned into a serial killer.
You were concerned, or like, wait a second.
Yeah. It's like, wow, what the hell happened to her? But I haven't said it to her, of course. I've often been wondering, like, did her friends say anything when they saw that? It's like, wow, that girl looks like you, but wouldn't very.
Wow. Don't follow up. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I won't be following that one.
Good.
Well
done, though, on that story. I had never heard of it. That was pretty intense.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So, guys, for everybody that is a Rachel hater in the True Crime News, again, you don't have to listen to this segment. Morgan still does his own show.
No one's holding a gun to their head.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm going to start off with I did a lot of food stories before. I only have one food-related story this week, and I'll move on from that subgenre, I guess you want to call it. So the headline is: a guy arrested after pretending a Greg's sausage roll was his penis. Yeah. Lots of people have got in trouble for some daft shit. So this is from the UK. The daft is like crazy. But one 30-year-old guy, Daniel Proctor, might just win, having roped in the UK's favorite pastry into his prank. A woman was walking to work in the early hours of the 4th of November when she saw someone stood near some bins outside McDonald's. In the victim's statement, she said she then looked across and noticed his penis was sticking out the top of his trousers. He was waving it about. On seeing me, he stared at me for 5 to 10 seconds. I was about 100 yards away from the male, and I had a clear, unobstructed view. The street was very quiet at that time of day, and that she said she left feeling alarmed and afraid. She crossed the road and considered taking a picture of him. However, she instead decided to call the police, who found
She should have done both. Sorry.
Well, they found Daniel hanging out in the loos, that's the washroom, of the fast food restaurant. He was initially arrested on suspicion of indecent exposure before he revealed what he'd really exposed was actually pretty decent, and whipped out a Greg's sausage roll. I guess that's kind of like a pig in a blanket in the UK, but with a sausage instead of a wiener. That meant he was charged with a public order offense on the grounds that he had made the sausage roll look like his penis. So I guess that's their equivalent of like being disorderly or something like that.
So it's a legitimate arrestable offense?
I guess the fact that it's just kind of like, maybe that's like a disturbing the peace, where you're just making a spectacle of yourself and annoying everyone and disrupting everything.
Oh my God, in that case, then there's like 57 people I know right now that need to be arrested.
Oh, yeah. To reiterate, a guy actually got arrested because he made a Greg's sausage roll look like his penis. You really cannot make this shit up. Prosecutor James Palmer said the officer cautioned and arrested him on suspicion of exposure, and the defendant replied saying, "It was a Greg's sausage roll." Palmer then showed the police the remains of the Greg's favorite on top of a bin. "It clearly was not his penis," said Palmer. "It was a sausage roll, but he made it look like it was his penis, which was disorderly." So Daniel was due in court but didn't show up. His lawyer said he suffers from mental health issues, but had no explanation as to why he didn't show up. So they gave him a 6-month conditional discharge. I guess that's like a suspended sentence. And they found him guilty in absentia of behaving in a disorderly manner. So I guess, he should have, well, maybe he didn't know better if he legitimately has mental health issues. But,
I wonder what kind of mental health issues.
Well, it's really amazing how people get hysterical at the sight of an unsolicited penis. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like, if a naked woman, say, like there was a mentally ill woman, like she had her clothes off, she was like running and screaming through the streets, they'd be disturbed just by the fact that, like, she's so, like, that, she's lost her mind and maybe she's a danger to herself and others. But I don't think her nudity would disturb them that much. But there's something about a naked man that would have people screaming and puking and covering children's eyes. You know what I mean?
Well, I do know what you mean, but I'm also in the realm of thought that we should normalize nudity a little bit more in our country.
Are there nude beaches in Florida?
I think there are. I think there are. I believe there are. I think there's one in Miami. I don't know if there's one around me. I mean, but from what I hear, the people who go there are usually the older, retired people. So it's not like, I don't know I think if we just normalized it a little more, it wouldn't be so shocking. The reason why it's shocking is because it's so taboo. But that's just my personal opinion.
Well, like, have you been a recipient of dick pics on the internet? Unsolicited dick pics?
Yes. It's not attractive.
Well, is it more disturbing or more annoying?
Annoying.
Yeah. Because that never works.
Unsolicited, yeah. It's not cute. That's not a turn on. We're not like looking at that going, swoon. It is not my reaction. That's
the thing. If a woman doesn't want to see a penis, then it really bums her out if she sees it.
Correct.
Unsolicited views of it's weird because there's this festival. I think it's Celebrate the Penis. Everyone's carrying around like some kind of model of it, like a wood carving or something. So they're really into them there, but in North America, it's enough to put some people in a straitjacket if they're not interested in seeing one.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I went to I've been to Burning Man twice, if anybody's familiar with that festival out in Nevada before it kind of jumped the shark. And it kind of opened my eyes to see just being around that many people accepting of other people was really an interesting and kind of coming of age and a mindset change for me. So it was really, really awesome. And that kind of switched my gear of how I saw nudity with people. So.
Well, I guess if you go to a nudist colony after a while, you probably don't think about it that much after a while.
Yeah, you get not desensitized, but it's normalizing it. Just like flip-flops or I like how I just associated flip-flops with nudity because I'm flipping retarded and I don't have a brain right now. It's been a long week. Sorry, guys.
Well, that said, I'm not sure I'm on board with the like taking your whole family there, like little children.
No.
I don't think children should be at the nudist resorts. That's a little too weird. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. Yeah. I wouldn't take my child to a nudist resort for sure, or Burning Man for that matter. But that's their prerogative. That's to each their own.
All right. So what's your first story of the week?
So we're gonna go to Arkansas. This is Arkansas woman suing police after short chase ends with state trooper flipping her car.
Wow.
It happened last year, but it's just now going to trial. So it happened in Jacksonville, Arkansas. A pregnant Arkansas woman's car flipped on its roof by a state trooper who accused the driver of not pulling over fast enough, according to the video and the brief chase that's being used in her lawsuit. Nicole Harper, 38, went to bed on July 9th thinking her unborn child died in the crash on US Highway 167 in Jacksonville, Arkansas, her lawyer Andrew Norwood said. Quote, she cried herself to sleep, Norwood said. Harper was going 84 miles per hour in a 70-mile-per-hour zone when Trooper Rodney Dunn turned on his siren and flashed lights for her to pull over. According to her lawsuit she filed last month in the Pulaski County Circuit Court. Again, that was a year ago. Dashcam video obtained by Harper's legal team appeared to show her slowing, activating her blinkers, and changing lanes to the right so that she could eventually pull over, Norwood said. But on the stretch of southbound US 167, the shoulders are narrow, and Harper wanted to pull over safely at an exit, the motorist has claimed. It's essentially a, quote, it's essentially a bowling alley with bumpers on both sides, Norwood said. Quote, there's nowhere to go. You're boxed in a concrete barriers on both sides. The pursuit was 2 minutes and 7 seconds long when the trooper tapped the back of Harper's car in a, quote, pursuit intervention technique, more commonly known as a pit maneuver, the lawsuit said. The tap caused Harper's car to suddenly veer left and out of the dash cam's view. The trooper immediately did a 180 and circled back to see the red SUV on its top, footage showed. The trooper's action, quote, constituted a reckless attempt to engage in conduct that created substantial risk of physical injury, end quote, Harper's civil complaint said. In the video, the trooper approached Harper's car, flipped, and asked her and helped her out of the wreckage, and this is what he said. Now, let's pause for a moment and picture this scene.
Mm-hmm.
A pregnant woman driving 84 and a 70, which, not gonna lie, on I-75 where I drive, 84 is kind of like an acceptable, it's speeding, but it's not like criminal speeding, because that's like when you go over a certain mile an hour, it's a different charge. So, okay. But you also have the right, and I'll mention it here, to be able to pull over in a safe fashion if you do not feel safe. Okay? Second of all, you notice this woman has now flipped her car, and you're going to help her out, and these are the words he spoke to her. He asked, quote, why didn't you stop? She said, because I didn't feel it was safe. He responded, well, this is where you ended up. Ma'am, you got to pull over. Okay. The Arkansas driver's license manual urges motorists to, now here it is, quote, pull to the nearest, safest spot out of the traffic lane when police are exercising a pullover. In the emergency room that night, a doctor told the 2 months pregnant Harper that a fetal heartbeat could not be detected, and she believed the baby had died. But an exam by her OBGYN the next morning did pick up the heartbeat, and Harper's baby daughter was born that next February. In addition to speeding, Harper is being charged with failing to yield to an emergency vehicle, which carries a maximum penalty of a $400 fine. A spokeswoman for the Arkansas State Police declined comment on both the lawsuit and the July 9th incident. So she's suing that cop, which I think she has every right to do.
Well, it's interesting because over the last year or so, all this, everything about police brutality and harassment's come to light a lot more than usual. And yet the incidents of it haven't decreased. Like you would think police would be extra cautious right now so they don't end up going viral on social media and something. But it hasn't decreased. It just seems to happen at the same rate, maybe even more often.
Yeah. I'm picturing myself in that situation. I mean, again, she's not 8 months pregnant. She was only 2 months pregnant. But still, if you're being, and it didn't say what time of day or night it was, but if somebody's pulling me over and I don't feel comfortable, especially on an interstate, I'm definitely going to wait until I find somewhere safe to pull over for the safety of not only yourself, for the officer, and for anybody coming by. That is legitimately what you're supposed to do. So tapping the back of her car, and which ended in her car flipping over, is not okay. That's aggressive.
Totally, yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. There you go. What you got
Well,
for me next?
from minivans and police cars, we go to another British story. This one involves mopeds, which it's funny. That's never been as popular in North America, these little motorbikes. But anyway, the moped crime gangs, they use acid and knives to rob.
Wait a second. Moped crime gangs.
Yeah, these dudes, they go up to people who are walking on the street. So so remember the last true crime, Would You Rather, I mentioned acid. Would you rather have acid thrown on your face? I forget what the second thing was. Well, these guys use this kind of corrosive acid, or they use knives to rob phones, to steal phones from people. Armed robbery with acid or knives.
On a moped.
Yeah.
So threatening.
A British moped gang who uses mopeds to get away from crime scenes or to sneak up on members of the public to steal from them have revealed the dark details behind their work in a new BBC Three documentary. The documentary, called Inside Britain's Moped Crime Gangs, shines a light on the recent rise of moped crime in the UK, where last year there were over 23,000 incidents reported, and that's just in the capital city of London. That's just in London, which has seen a 163% rise in the previous year. From behind creepy masks, the criminals speak openly about attacking innocent, quote-unquote, stupid pedestrians and stealing from them, often using as well baseball bats, knives, swords, and acid to do so. Usually, however, it's even simpler, as they drive by on two wheels and swiftly snatch people's phones before speeding off. We were looking for people that are looking down, got their phones out with their headphones in particular, said one gangster known as Mr. X. As soon as it is green, they are unaware to any vehicles coming, and for us, that is the perfect opportunity, because as they're crossing, we time it. And then we'll grab whatever we can grab, and off we go. By the time we realize we're already at the second traffic light and we are going right, there's a little estate around the corner. He added, anything that's not securely wrapped around someone's shoulder or someone's back, it's very easy for us to snatch and take it. The 21-year-old also says that he feels people are stupid to walk around with their phones and that they are asking for it. You're asking for it, in my opinion. I just saw a woman just now crossing the road with her phone, looking down. That's not normal. Well, it's pretty normal nowadays. You're crossing the road. You should have all eyes on the road. Another criminal called Top Cat explained about throwing acid, saying he'd done it a couple of times. Sprayed it in his face, just bleeding like he's burning. Man shouting and screaming. I think they put it in like a spray bottle, like a Windex bottle.
Yeah.
If I had my knife on me, one of us would have ended up dead. You get me? Actually, don't make me feel too good, obviously, but man's not doing it to intentionally hurt them. I'm just doing it so they get out of the way, in it so they don't resist so I can get my things. I like this stuff. Get me? It's easy. Get me, man. Get paid. Get me my money. I love it. So, I don't know. One thing I guess they're not taking into account is that a lot of people's phones are password protected these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, this was in, where is this happening?
It's in England. That they talked to some guys who do it in London, but it happens across the country as well.
And I can't help but think to myself, because I'm sure their gun laws are stricter, so they have to use like swords and acid and knives, but they're still, attacking people, but they can't use a gun legally. I don't know. Why did my brain go to that? Maybe better.
The acid, that's particularly sad.
That's bad. Yeah, I don't want to have acid sprayed in my face and be maimed.
Yeah, because it could disfigure you. So.
Yeah. What was your in the face is bad.
Oh yeah, for sure. And if it gets in your eyes, that's it. You're blind.
Blind. Yep.
Okay, so what's your next story?
It's actually a Florida story, it's a Publix story, and screw you because I love Publix. People in the South know, they know. So this is a Publix shooting, just happened, I believe last week. Killer made threats against children on social media. Family said he was schizophrenic. Mental health, everybody. So this was Royal Palm Beach. Timothy J. Wall posted on social media that he wanted to kill people, particularly children. The unemployed carpenter had displayed increasingly paranoid behavior for days, and Thursday morning he appeared to be looking to bring his Facebook insanity to reality. Wall found his victims at 11:35 a.m. Thursday, killing 2 strangers, and I'm sorry, this is horrible, a 69-year-old grandmother and her toddler grandson, almost 2 years old. They died while doing an everyday chore in one of the most common places, a public supermarket in Royal Palm Beach. A former relative of Wall, the sister of his ex-wife, told the Palm Beach Post on Friday that the 55-year-old Acreage resident suffered from schizophrenia and that her sister had previously reached out to law enforcement for help. But Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw blasted the ex-wife and anybody who knew of Wall's unhinged social media raging, but who had failed to notify authorities. Quote, the real sad part of this, other than the fact that people are dead, is that there was a chance that this could have been stopped, quote, Bradshaw said. Quote, you know why? The reason is he's on Facebook. He has said, I want to kill people and children, end quote. So apparently the sheriff's office held a news conference Friday offering a timeline of the events that led to the shootings. Wall drove to the Crossroads shopping plaza at Okeechobee and Royal Palm Beach Boulevards on a red scooter.
Interesting getaway.
Why are we always linked mentally with our stories?
I don't know.
We must feel it somewhere in the cosmos.
Most
it's so funny. Surveillance cameras caught him lurking in Walgreens and then again in Publix earlier in the morning when he was apparently spooked off by a sheriff's deputy buying groceries. Wall entered the Publix holding a golf putter, using it as a walking stick. He found his innocent victims in the produce aisle at 11:29 a.m. Surveillance camera videos show that Wall was watching the victims across the produce section. Wall then moved to the shopping cart and killed the child with one shot. The grandmother then instinctively attacked Wall. She almost had the upper hand when his gun jammed, but he pushed her down on the ground and shot her, Bradshaw said in the news conference. 30 people were inside the Publix at the time of the shooting. The first sheriff's deputy arrived 3 minutes after the attack and found all 3 people dead. Wall had shot himself in the head. The names of the victims have not been released in accordance with a 2018 amendment to the state constitution, which allows crime victims or their families to withhold their names from public reports. It is modeled on California's mercy law, which is interesting. Bradshaw said if the sheriff's office had been alerted to Wall's mental deterioration, then deputies could have confiscated any weapon in his possession. He said Wall warned those around him with his behavior and his postings on social media. Quote, obviously there was some mental instability, Bradshaw said. If it sounds like I am angry, it's because I am. So this man, Wall, worked as a carpenter for a temp agency. He had been legally evicted from his ex-wife's home and had filed for bankruptcy. Records show he appeared to be a vagabond of late, living at motel efficiencies in the weeks before the shooting, records show. He declared bankruptcy in January and listed as in his possession in the bankruptcy an APC-45 semi-automatic handgun meant for use by police and the military. The sheriff's office has not said what weapon Wall used to commit the murder-suicide, so that wasn't confirmed. The owner of a construction temp service who would sometimes hire Wall said the carpenter came off as kind of off, but was his most timid of workers. He did hear from other workers that Wall told them he was living in a shed at one point. Wall also said he was playing the stock market and wouldn't need to do construction jobs anymore. The employer, who asked that his name not be published, also said that Wall, for a job recently, had told him, he had called him to do a recent job, and he said, "No, I'm going through some stuff. I really can't work." Maya Knight of Wellington is a sister of Wall's ex-wife, Monica Sandra Wall. The Walls married in 2003 and divorced in July 2017. She stated, this is the ex-sister-in-law, "He had mental issues. He wasn't taking care of himself," Knight said. "My sister was going to the courthouse, going to police, telling everyone he needs help. My sister was trying to help him, but didn't know how." She said Timothy Wall wasn't getting help he needed for his mental illness, which she said was schizophrenia. He wasn't taking medication, and he had alcohol problems at one point, she said. Quote, "He didn't even want to help himself. My sister would say, 'I can't tell a grown man what to do if he doesn't want to do it himself.'" Truth. The couple had a 14-year-old daughter. She had been going through a tough time seeing him like that. The Palm Beach County Circuit Judge had allowed Timothy Wall to live in his marital home in Royal Palm Beach for a few months, but in May 2019, Monica Sandra Wall evicted him. Quote, "She did evict him because he kept going back to her home and she was going to cops and getting no help," end quote, Knight said. The sheriff's office did not immediately respond. A post email asking if Wall's ex-wife had reached out previously for help with her husband's mental illness. Sandra Brown, a Loxahatchee resident and hairstylist at Festive Cuts Beauty Salon in the Public Plaza, said that customers and Publix employees took refuge at her business after the shooting. So apparently, like, a bunch of people went over to her hair salon because obviously there were shots ringing out. So unfortunately, a couple people saw it happen, she said, and I can't even imagine how horrific that was to witness. The Publix did reopen that Saturday. Customers returned Friday morning to collect items they had left behind. A tearful Acai Hernandez said the shooting makes her feel for the safety of her children. She was quoted, "I don't feel safe to go anywhere with my kids anymore," she said. "I wanted to come by yesterday because I have medication at the pharmacy, but for some reason I didn't come by. I was supposed to be there around 11. So this is somebody who was supposed to be there and wasn't. The panic on other people's faces also made me emotional since I'm extremely empathetic, she said. That could have been me and my son. So, super tragic.
So I'm wondering, because I mentioned in the Elizabeth Wettlaufer episodes, to go back to that for a second, there's this thing in Canadian law where if you've got a severe mental illness like schizophrenia and you've led people to believe that you're a danger to yourself or others, social workers or police can issue what's called a Form 1 or a Form 3, where basically, well, it's like if you weren't taking your medication and that led to the emergence of these kinds of symptoms,
right?
They can put you in a psych ward and you're not allowed to leave until you're taking your meds regularly.
Which I wish we had, because that could have literally prevented this from happening.
But Rachel, freedom.
Freedom and guns and shit.
Yeah. So,
I know, but like, okay, so it's saying that, they won't verify that she previously reached out to authorities, but I'm going to assume, that she has, because they're seeing symptoms. She's seen symptoms. She reached out for help, and I'm telling you right now, very few people are going to take mental illness in this country seriously. They don't. It's a problem. It's a huge problem.
If they're not going to do anything about to further regulate gun ownership, then they need to further regulate issues surrounding mental illness. Like if a guy's going on Facebook saying I'm going to kill people, then
and it's
yeah.
been previously reported that he owns a gun.
Yeah, he should not. Nobody with that kind of mental illness should be allowed to own guns. And I think there is some screening like that. And I acknowledge that there is the underground arms dealers that you can buy guns from.
Right.
But nevertheless, nobody with that kind of condition should ever be allowed to own a gun. Nobody who is suicidal should be allowed to own a gun. But yeah, I know ultimately a lot of guns slip through the cracks, like with Adam Lanza and his mother. So
yeah, this is just super unfortunate because, like I said, in the bankruptcy that he went through, it was listed that he owned that, and she had been going to everyone she could to try to get help, and no one would help her. So unfortunately, 2 people lost a baby, and a grandmother lost her life because of that.
So we don't have Publix up here. Is the layout of the store really big? Is it like a Walmart or?
No, it's a grocery store. It's just
like a regular size.
Yeah, regular size grocery store. But all my Southern people who have Publix are gonna understand this. Hashtag pub subs. They have the best sub sandwiches in the entire world.
What, do they have an actual sub shop where they make it, or do they pre-package them and everything? Or
no, you can make it. You go to the deli and then you just get it customized however you want it, or you can pre-order it and pick it up. But they're so, I don't even like submarine sandwiches. Like Subway's disgusting. Sorry for anybody, but pub subs are the jam.
No offense to the Subway fan club.
No offense to the Subway fandom. I'm sorry, but you haven't had a pub sub, obviously.
Yeah.
Let me school you to my ways.
Now, the next one's in a town called Mountain View. This is in the States. I think it might have been Colorado, but I can't remember that well now.
Sounds
but,
all right.
So a hate crime. This is a Karen story. A hate crime charged in maskless assault and racist outburst at Mountain View McDonald's. Prosecutors allege that after a woman refused to wear a mask or leave, she punched a manager while calling him a stupid Mexican. This usually happens in the fast food places, of course. A woman has been charged with a misdemeanor hate crime for allegedly punching a McDonald's manager in Mountain View after she refused to wear a mask or leave and profanely insulted Mexican people during the confrontation and to police afterward. Elena Jenkins, 40, of San Jose, California, also faces a misdemeanor battery charge following her arrest early Saturday morning at the restaurant on El Monte Avenue. Jenkins, who Mountain View police described as unhoused when she was arrested, was scheduled to be arraigned Wednesday. Targeting people because of their perceived ethnicity is not just a shame, it's a crime, District Attorney Jeff Rosen said in a news release Wednesday. Jenkins was inside the McDonald's without a mask, violating restaurant policy and prompting an employee to ask her to leave. Police and prosecutors say that spurred her to yell, "Fucking Mexican, go ahead and call the cops." That was followed by Jenkins allegedly shoving a plexiglass shield and sign at the employee. When the restaurant manager tried to intervene and asked her to leave, prosecutors contend she walked around the front counter calling the manager a stupid Mexican and, quote, used her fist to strike him on the arm and shoulder. After responding, police officers arrested her. She reportedly continued her verbal barrage against the McDonald's employees to the officers, insulting their race and English literacy.
Good job.
Have you witnessed anything like this in real life?
Probably. I may have blocked it out, but I'm sure. I mean, 100%. Yes. Let me say yes. Yes.
Well, but is Fort Myers like a multiracial community, or is it
very, very? We have we have. Yes, it is, and we actually have a very large Hispanic population that continues to grow. But Lord have mercy, can you get some damn good tacos? And I kind of love Hispanic food and culture, so I'm all about it. But yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of ethnicities and different kinds of neighborhoods around where I am. But then you also have
Karens.
Karens. You have a lot of Karens. So, yeah. Excuse me.
Well,
Definitely.
when I worked in customer service, I dealt with them all the time, and yeah, they can be a nightmare. So
Same.
actually, it's a funny race-related thing happened. It was a call center, and there was this white girl there, and this woman, I think she called her the N-word, even though for some reason she thought she was black over the phone. So she like made a racial comment, not realizing the girl was white. So
that's happened. I also work in customer service, and we have had customers call in. I don't want to say specifically where I work, but there has been some very, very nasty comments made, to which we've had to include our legal department.
Yeah,
because they're so bad. Yeah, it's interesting what people say and how they act. It's sad, but
well, it's easier.
I've learned to roll with the punches at this point.
Well, it's easier when you have the barrier of not actually being in front of the person's face.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not as easy to say things like that to someone's face.
Yep. And I pride myself in being able to usually de-escalate most people, but some people they aren't having it. They're angry and they're probably mentally ill or just hate the world, and you can't do anything with them. So, ooh, Karens.
All right, what's your next story?
It's not fun. This is I'll just go into it. A 3-year-old boy dies after falling at least 10 feet from a window, being mauled by family's pit bulls in backyard.
Holy shit! What a terrible death. Holy fuck.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone. But you are listening to Human Monsters podcast. Welcome. We are your hosts.
Yeah.
A 3-year-old died after a fall from a window and an ensuing attack by his own family's dogs on Wednesday. Authorities in Elizabeth, New Jersey announced the day after the shocking event. The child fell at least 10 feet and possibly 15 feet from a window in the rear of his family's home and plummeted into the backyard, where neighbors said pit bulls were fenced in. The Union County Prosecutor's Office and the Elizabeth Police Department said in a joint statement they are investigating the circumstances behind the incident. According to authorities, police arrived at the scene at the home after 5:25 p.m. on Wednesday and found the victim had suffered, quote, serious injuries. The child was pronounced dead at a hospital a little over an hour later. This is a quote, and I'm going to have to quote it because there are so many tasks. Here we go. Sorry. Quote, an investigation led by members of the Union County Homicide Task Force, the Prosecutor's Office Special Victims Unit, and Special Prosecutions Unit, and the Union County Sheriff's Office Crime Scene Union, and assisted by members of the Elizabeth Police Department, revealed that the dogs, which belonged to the victim's family, were in the fenced yard at the time of the incident. Quote, the statement said. Representatives of a local animal control organization responded to the scene and secured the dogs, which were transported to another location. I just love that they had to mention how many task force and units were assisting in this.
That's quite a bit, yeah. For a couple of dogs.
It was a little excessive. They're just covering their ass.
I mean, why not just bring in the SWAT team?
I swear to God, I was waiting for that. Like, Homeland Security, like, everybody. Like,
the National Guard, yeah.
I swear to God, dude. I was like, what the hell? Why are there so many? Anyway, sorry, I found that interesting. Unfortunately, the city reportedly intends to euthanize the dogs. It's unclear how the child ended up falling from the window, but it could be that the window was left open due to the heat. Hours before the child fell, temperatures were in the mid-80s in Elizabeth, New Jersey. A neighbor spoke with NJ.com after the child's death. She recalled hearing a bang and then screams. She quoted, "I heard something like bang, and then I heard someone was screaming like, 'Help, no stop, no stop.'" Quote, the woman said, adding that she saw a man running to the front of the residence with a bloody child in his arms. Though one neighbor described the dogs as aggressive, another neighbor said that they, quote, "never thought the dogs were bad," end quote. "It's really sad," the person said. "As of Friday morning, no charges have been filed."
All right. Look,
Bummer of a story.
If anyone who listens to this owns a pit bull, I know I've heard it from pit bull owners that they're not really as bad as they say they are, and they never bit me and got lockjaw and all that. But I don't know, man. I still don't feel I still feel uneasy around pit bulls. I had a pit bull lunge at me once. Fortunately, it was tied up. This was on the street. I looked it in the eye and it just struck out against me. I don't know. Do I think they should be banned? No, but I mean, when you consider this is a dog that was bred to fight, and so obviously its DNA was altered at some point, so that aggressive tendencies could be accentuated, just like how they bred aggression out of English bulldogs. I don't know if you knew this about bulldogs. The reason they're called bulldogs is because in ancient Rome, they would take down bulls. They jump up and grab it by the throat and pull it down to the ground. But they don't have that aggression anymore. But pit bulls do. A lot of them do. And I think there was an attack here in Toronto a number of years ago, and that was a big incident where I think a dog was killed by a pit bull. So.
Well, I'm gonna follow up with that. And I did, when I was younger, had 2 pit bulls. They were very, very sweet. And some of them, do have that aggressive nature, but not all of them do. And they really do. I mean, a lot of it does depend on the owner and how you train a dog. It's a weird, I get it, because I know people who've had bad pit bull stories, but I've also owned them, and they've been the sweetest animals ever. And to go back to the English bulldog, that breed is so overbred at this point.
Yeah,
First of all, they can't even barely walk. Yeah. And the females can't even have their own childbirth. Yeah, so that's an overly bred, very sad. Yeah. And everyone's gonna come down on me on this. I know it. There's gonna be freaking bulldog. I'm like, I'm sorry. The ones that exist, yes, love them, but don't perpetuate. In my opinion, they're overbred.
It's not the problem with overbreeding. Well, it's that, but also a lot of breeders are relying on inbreeding, and it has the same effect on dogs that it does on human beings. Exactly. So you get canine equivalents of the Goller clan, basically.
There you go. Oh my God, yes, perfect. Guys, please don't hate me. I don't hate bulldog. My best friend has had like 50 of them. I've had to deal with them my whole life. But the Lord have mercy. They have some bad physical problems.
Well, yeah, it's like when you breed horses or cows, you don't just let the same herd, inbreed for generations. You and another farmer, you make a deal, and you bring your stud over here and your mare over here, and they get it on, and that way the genetic, which is why horses are a lot less likely to have these problems.
Do we play music for them when we let them get it on?
I don't know. I don't think they need any. I don't know, but it's funny. The male seems to need to be. He always seems to need to get a kickstart. They always have to help get started. But
intimidation by the female.
They don't always do that with dogs. Like I once knew a woman. She didn't fix any of her cats, and brother and sister had kittens.
No, don't do that. That's bad.
I ended up with one of the cats. He died when he was 7 from it was either liver failure or kidney failure. So
Speaking of which, my Sphinx cat right now is meowing in the background like a lunatic. So if you hear her, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
She's 17.
Okay. So before I go on to my next story, did you listen to the episode about the girl in the closet? It's the second episode I ever made. Lauren Kavanaugh.
Yes.
So okay,
Yes.
I was waiting for a long time for this story because this is finally there's an update to that whole thing.
Oh wow.
So I mentioned in that episode that she had an affair with an underage girl and she was arrested for it. So this is an update. Girl in the closet, Lauren Kavanaugh, to be treated at mental health facility, deemed incompetent to stand trial. So after being deemed incompetent in September to stand trial, a Denton County woman accused of sexually assaulting a child will be transferred to a mental health facility this week for treatment. Lauren Kavanaugh, 27, faced abuse as a child at the hands of her parents and became known as the girl in the closet due to the nature of her abuse. Her parents, convicted in 2002 and sentenced to life in prison, sexually abused, starved, and locked her in a closet when she was a child. That went on for 6 years. In 2018, Kavanaugh was arrested by the Louisville Police Department after they received a tip alleging that she had sexually assaulted a child. Authorities say she admitted she had had a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old girl. She was indicted in March 2019. A little more than 2 years later, Kavanaugh is still booked into the Denton County Jail with 3 sexual assault charges still pending. In September, she was found to be incompetent to stand trial, but she has yet to be transferred to a mental health facility for treatment. That will change this week. And I think this was published in March. She has been evaluated and is not competent to stand trials, said her attorney. So that means she is unable to work with me on her defense or to understand what's going on in the court because of a mental health issue. Perry said it's unusual for them to be waiting for her transfer to the North Texas State Hospital in Vernon since September but they know there can be a delay in transfer for clients. After an initial conversation Friday morning, Perry called the Denton Record Chronicle about an hour later and said Kavanaugh would be transferred this week. She said, "We had hoped she would be transferred when she was initially deemed incompetent. I have several clients in the same boat and know several people with clients in the same boat. There's always a little bit of a backup anyway, but certain COVID has made it more prevalent." The rest of it is just more information about that. So since she was put in jail, there were other charges, actually. Jail records show Kavanaugh.
How long ago was she put in jail now?
That
was a while ago.
She was arrested in 2018, so she's been in jail since then. So since she was put in jail, records show she has been charged with 1 count of harassment of a peace officer and 2 counts of assault against a peace officer. So she was taken to a maximum security campus because of those charges. So,
which probably didn't help with her mental illness, to be honest.
No, not at all. So, I mean, the mental illness thing makes sense. If you've ever watched those segments on Dr. Phil, her PTSD is just off the charts. It's debilitating. She can't sleep. She gets night terrors. She's attempted suicide many, many times by self-mutilating. She's been addicted to drugs and alcohol. One time, she attempted suicide by jumping out of a moving car. And yes, so this girl, and it also this brought to light something. It's funny because there's this myth a lot of people believe about the penal code, and I used to believe it too, but it's a misconception. There's no such thing as a statutory rape charge. If you have sex with someone who is not considered legally to be capable of giving informed consent, it's just rape. And she would have gotten 20 years had she just been charged under other circumstances. If she had been deemed fit to stand trial, she could have gotten 20 years for that. So, I mean, of course, in terms of people who are not capable of giving informed consent, obviously minors, then there's disabled people who were either intellectually disabled, developmentally disabled, or physically disabled to the point where they're paralyzed and can't resist. Seniors who have dementia or Alzheimer's. And actually, if you work for a prison and you have sex with one of the inmates, that's also considered rape.
Yep.
Because when you're in jail, it's like basically from a legal standpoint, you're like a child again. So in the state owns you. It's like the warden of the prison's your father or mother or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
so
they're responsible for your well-being. So
yeah, exactly.
that you can't escape, you can't run away. So that's their burden.
Yeah, and it's like if you ever watched Orange's statutory rape charge, if you have sex with someone under 18, you're just charged with rape. All right, you're up next.
All right, no one yell at us, okay? We've had a hard week. Leave us alone. All right, so this is interesting. All right, so this is another. I keep finding these stories of youth doing horrible things. Teen couple discuss having murdered somebody in giggly, amorous video after they allegedly killed the girl's dad. Ugh. Yeah. All right. So here we go. A teenage couple charged with killing the girl's dad discussed having murdered somebody as seen in a newly released cell phone video in their criminal case. That is Aaron Guerrero, 18, and Sierra Halseth, 16, in the footage, looking cozy as they lay back in what seems to be a tent. This was just days after the Las Vegas couple allegedly killed the girl's father, Daniel Halseth, 45, in a brutal fashion. This is a quote, "Welcome back to our YouTube channel," quote, said a smiley Guerrero in the video obtained. Day 3, said Sierra Halseth, who was a source named because who the source named, my source, because she is being charged as an adult. Quote, "Day 3 after murdering somebody," end quote, said Guerrero. Whoa, said the smiling Halseth, who then covered her mouth with her hand, quote, "Don't put that on camera," end quote. Quote, "It was worth it," quote, said her boyfriend. They continued to cuddle, with Guerrero patting Halseth's cheek and wrapping his hand around her throat. The girl coughed. Quote, "So yeah," quote, she said, smiling into the camera. They are the Nevada teens accused of murdering Daniel Halseth and trying to dismember his body after their parents told them they could not be together. When the victim's mother and his ex-wife had not heard from him, Sierra Halseth allegedly told the paternal grandmother that Daniel Halseth was fine. Quote, "His phone has been acting up, but he's okay. Okay, O-K-I-E. Quote, she said in text obtained from KLAS. Quote, "It should be all fixed by tomorrow night, no worries," end quote, she added with a smiley face. The grandmother, however, remained worried, later writing, quote, Why are you doing, ? Now the police are involved, end quote. Such evidence was presented to a grand jury. Police said that Guerrero and the younger Halseth burned the victim's body and tried to dismember it. Surveillance footage allegedly recorded them. Here we go. Here we fucking go. You ready? Surveillance footage allegedly recorded them buying the items for cleanup. They allegedly got things like lighter fluid for a fire, as well as several different kinds of saws. Quote, "There is surveillance video and receipts indicating when the items were purchased here locally that were used in the cover-up of the crime," end quote, Las Vegas Lieutenant Ray Spencer told KLAS in April, shortly after the discovery of the father's death. Guerrero's attorney, Gabriel Grass, told KLAS that he is preparing mitigation evidence in the event that prosecutors pursue the death penalty against his client. Sierra Halseth is not eligible for that punishment because she is a minor. The couple was arrested in Salt Lake City, Utah. Daniel Halseth's family remembered him as a loving father, brother, and son who was the heart of the Halseth family, in a statement obtained by KLAS. The total lack of remorse on display in the video is both reprehensible and unforgivable, the family wrote, asking for privacy and adding that this was the only statement that they will make. So, yeah.
Well, maybe that might become a thing in the future, like snuff films on social media, killing people live.
Yeah.
You never know.
Like, how are you going to post that on YouTube? What is wrong with you people?
Well, did you ever hear about the Canadian serial killer Luca Magnotta? He killed kittens on camera.
Don't fuck with cats.
Yeah. You saw that documentary? Yeah.
Of course I did.
Series.
God, it was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
That one got me. They all get me bad, but that one was bad. Lunatic.
Real piece of work,
cats,
that one.
So don't fuck with cats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Kids. What? Killing parents because they couldn't be together. Parents said they couldn't be together, so we're just gonna kill them and then laugh about it. What is wrong? Well,
it's amazing
Well, remember I said, I think in our last.
Some people already get famous.
Yes, and also I said in our last thing, a friend looking for mental psychology or therapy for the top 2-year waiting list. 2-year waiting list.
Yeah.
For pediatric, therapists. That's unacceptable.
2-year waiting list. Oh my God.
2-year waiting list. So we need better. We need to do better.
Way too long. Oh yeah. All right.
Bring me up, Morgan. Come on.
Yeah. This one has some comic relief in it. By the way, so there have been parts of the show where Rachel or I either got cut out or it was kind of the staccato connect voice. That's Skype. It's Skype letting me down. So it's not us. We're not doing anything wrong.
It's Skype being an asshole.
But it's not, it's not like Zoom never does it. I've seen interviews like on TV, and there are times when it.
Yep.
Yet. So, Colorado man arrested for operating drug lab where he made quote-unquote healthy acai berry meth. Have you ever had acai berry?
So,
Rachel?
from what I can ascertain, it's acai. is how we pronounce it.
Acai that's how you pronounce it?
I'm from what I ascertain, it's acai berry. But yes, I've had it.
So are they really sweet or are they sour?
It's kind of when I have it, it's usually in something else. So I don't know if I've ever had an actual acai berry just by itself. It's just like an acai berry flavored beverage or something, but it's a little tart, and I don't know, fruity, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's probably like a Whole Foods kind of product, right? If you were just gonna buy them on their own.
Probably. I don't go there, so I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I. Police arrested a Colorado man after discovering an unusual methamphetamine lab in his garage. Instead of run-of-the-mill meth, the man claimed to be making a bizarre concoction, which he told police was a healthy blend of acai berries and methamphetamine. According to a local news outlet, Longmont Times Call, the man has been identified as 49-year-old Craig William Rogers, and he was arrested following a traffic stop by police who had been surveilling his address. Before the arrest, local authorities received a tip about a possible meth lab working out of a property on the 1500 block of Emery Street. The tip included several photographs of the alleged meth lab. After receiving the photo evidence-backed tip, police surveyed the home located at the address. They stopped Rogers while he was out driving his black pickup truck and pulled him over for questioning. During the street-side questioning, Rogers freely admitted that he had meth inside a pipe in the center console of his truck. According to the affidavit, he also admitted to police that he was making a, quote, healthy meth substance at home, claiming there were acai berries in it, a deep purple-colored fruit more commonly associated with superfood smoothies than meth. So I guess this guy thought, like, well, if they were going to...
This is great.
I guess he thought like if they were going to sell crystal meth at Whole Foods, I guess they'd probably mix it up with like acai berries.
Acai berries.
Yeah.
You guys, this is different meth. This is acai berry meth. It's fine. It's fine. This is the way of the future. It's organic. We're giving you some health. We're trying to make it better for you. No, sir, you're making fucking meth.
Yeah, it's organic. Organic.
It's organic meth.
Well, snake venom is organic too, but anyway.
I can't. Acai berry meth. That's funny, dude.
So the deputy chief, Jeff Sater, said, no amount of meth is safe, whether it has a berry in it or not. It's a highly addictive, life-destroying drug. The man Rogers was arrested on May 26, 2020, on multiple counts, including possession of drug paraphernalia, suspicion of controlled substance possession, and unlawful distribution, manufacturing, dispensing of a controlled substance. I guess that wouldn't include the acai berries. He was released from custody on a $15,000 bond. So there you go. Just because you put healthy fruits or vegetables in with the meth, it's not going to get you off the hook legally.
Correct. If you add some turmeric and ginger into heroin, it does not make heroin any less illegal or unhealthy rather.
Make your arm burn, probably.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yep. There you go. All right. But no. Also, no. What the hell is wrong with people? God, this podcast is really messing my brain up.
Oh, yeah. It'll do that.
Mentally very ill people around. Speaking of mentally ill people, let's go on to my next story. Man caught with decades of child porn stored at home in hidden briefcase, suspended by a pulley system, was sentenced to 30 years in prison.
30? Holy shit.
So, a North Carolina man on Thursday was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison for production of child pornography, some of which dated back several decades, the Department of Justice announced on Friday. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of North Carolina said Raul Ayala, aged 72, pleaded guilty to the charges in April after a prepubescent minor victim came forward and told their parents that they had been sexually molested by Ayala. Officers of the Fuquay Varina Police Department investigating the allegations then interviewed Ayala, who admitted to sexually assaulting and exploiting multiple other minor victims dating back as far as the early 1970s. Authorities obtained and executed a warrant on Ayala's home and seized multiple electronic devices, uncovering a plethora of child pornography from locations like a hidden briefcase in an attic, suggesting that Ayala had gone to great lengths to conceal the whereabouts of his crimes. Quote, during the search, law enforcement located in Ayala's attic a hidden briefcase suspended by a pulley system that contained both adult pornography and child sex abuse material, which they say is they classify as CSAM, child sexual abuse material. Quote, the DOJ said in a statement. Quote, the briefcase contained trifold advertisements for child sexual abuse videos that included pictures of children engaged in sexual acts with adults. The briefcase also contained numerous nude Polaroid pictures of minor victims dating back to the late 1960s and early 1970s. Seized digital devices also contained numerous CSAM images and videos, end quote. So, according to the press release, agents with Homeland Security investigations. Unit were able to track down at least one of the male victims who was depicted in the series of Polaroid photographs recovered from Ayala's home. The man, who is now more than 50 years old, confirmed to the agents that Ayala had sexually abused him when he was a child, saying that the abuse began when he was just 8 years old. Insane. Quote, as disturbing as these child sex abuse cases are, HSI is determined to prevent and punish those who sexually abuse innocent children, end quote, said Special Agent in Charge Ronnie Martinez of HSI's Charlotte Field office. Quote, working together with our partners in the Fuquay-Varina Police Department and the Harnett County Sheriff's Office, these cases can be investigated thoroughly and expeditiously so children can continue to be rescued. There is nothing more meaningful than locating, identifying, and rescuing child sex abuse victims, end quote.
Yes.
Amen. In addition to the 30-year prison sentence, Ayala will be required to complete a 5-year term of post-incarceration supervised release, though it seems unlikely that the post-incarceration aspect of the sentence will ever be a factor because he's 72 years old.
Yeah.
Bye.
Do not defund the police. Do not dismantle the police. We need police. They're very valuable. I get there are a few bad cops, but there are also a few bad lawyers. There are bad doctors. There are
There's bad people,
brokers. Yes. Every profession has that element that do things that are wrong. But for the most part, cops are there saving us and preventing crime where they can.
Absolutely.
All child pornography is despicable, but the kind that probably kind of turned my stomach the most that I heard about involves where they actually integrate animals into it.
Oh, Jesus
That's
Christ.
pretty gross. Like this guy in the province of New Brunswick, Canada, he was caught with an enormous stash of child pornography, and some of it, had animals, raped children. So that's
Why?
so maybe that guy should be thrown in the loony bin because that's got to be a mental illness, right?
Well, in my opinion, pedophilia is a mental illness. So.
Well, yeah, that's what they're saying. That's what.
Again, in my opinion, and don't you dare come back at me and say it's a sexual orientation because I am going to fight with you.
No, that's what the psychiatric community says now, that it's a mental illness.
Well, no.
Sadly, in a lot of these.
Even if it is, I'm sorry, that's a mental illness. You cannot treat that. What?
Yeah.
So if you're gonna, you go to a psychologist, you get out, you reoffend. That's something I'm not willing to let happen. Just like a murderer or a freaking cannibal. Where is the level of rehabilitation? How do you, gauge that?
Well, in order to act on those urges, it's not enough to be a pedophile. You also have to be a sociopath because you have to be someone who doesn't mind living with the knowledge that you harmed someone like that.
Exactly.
So, someone who has no conscience, someone who feels no empathy. So I imagine there are probably a lot of people who feel that way secretly. They just don't act on it because of that, and also the legal consequences, which are pretty severe. So, yeah, I mean,
Yep.
if you're someone who followed through with it, you're a sociopath. You're just
Great.
You're evil. All right, moving on. So my next story was actually pretty huge in Canada this past week. I don't know if it registered on the American radar or not. Probably not.
Let's see.
So the headline is "Motivated by Hate: A Muslim Family Run Over in Canada." So this happened in the city of London, and I've been there several times. It's not one of my favorite cities in Canada, and apparently there has been quite a bit of racism there. Like this black girl said, like she'll walk into a place, like a cafe before COVID, and like all the heads would turn, like that kind of atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And there is something about the atmosphere of that city that really sucks. I'm not a fan of London. So police in the Canadian Yeah, I'm really not. You wouldn't either. It's not like London, England at all.
Okay, got you. I've
Actually,
never been to either, so I don't.
to
But
give you
I'll
an
trust you.
impression of to give you an impression of what it looks like visually, you know how in The Simpsons that part of town where Moe's Tavern is located,
Uh huh.
there are many sections of London that looks like that with like and like a lot of the stores are just empty because they're just
Ugh.
there's so much divestment from the city at this point. It's a crappy city.
I
So
gotcha.
police in the Canadian province of Ontario say a driver intentionally struck a family because they were Muslim, killing 4 people and seriously injuring a 9-year-old boy in what has been denounced as a quote act of unspeakable hatred and Islamophobia. The victims, all members of the same family, were hit on Sunday evening while waiting to cross a street in the city of London, which is 200 kilometers southwest of Toronto. Police said the victims were 2 women aged 77 and 44, a 46-year-old man and a 15-year-old girl. A 9-year-old boy was seriously injured and is recovering in hospital. London Mayor Ed Holder said this was an act of mass murder perpetuated against Muslims. It was rooted in unspeakable hatred. The attack was the worst against Canadian Muslims since a man gunned down 6 members of a Quebec City mosque in 2017. Holder said it was the worst mass murder the city had ever seen. Sunday's attack came amid rising concerns about Islamophobic attacks in provinces across Canada and widespread calls for authorities to tackle racism, hate-motivated violence, and the prevalence of far-right groups. 20-year-old suspect identified as Nathaniel Veltman was arrested, police said in a statement. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder.
So was the child the one that didn't die?
Yeah, was he 9 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, he survived.
Oh, that's so sad.
But that's almost tragic in and of itself. It's almost better to die and not have to go on with the rest of your life remembering it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's gonna be a hard road for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying it would be good for the kid to die, but
No, right, I understand.
considering the trauma that he's going to take with him the rest of his life, it's no picnic. So Veltman was arrested in a mall parking lot without incident while wearing a body armor type vest. There is no evidence he had any accomplices. There is evidence that this was a planned, premeditated act motivated by hate, said Superintendent Paul Waite of the London Police Department. We believe the victims were targeted because of their Islamic faith. So you see, what I'm wondering about is if he was inspired by that incident at Charlottesville where the guy got into a car and like just plowed down all these protesters. Remember that?
Yep, sure do.
Yeah, so it's like incidents like that just make me wonder if maybe that kind of thing has emboldened people like this. And Dylan Roof, who went into the black church and killed all those people. It's like these incel guys, killing people out in public. They're just inspiring the wrong people.
Yep.
So, but I don't think. But this douchebag doesn't represent all Canadians. We're not on board with this kind of thing.
He's a douche canoe.
He is, totally. Just like how not all Americans are represented by the douchebags who go around committing mass killings there.
Yeah, right. And all Floridians aren't Florida man.
And Rachel's not a Karen just because she happens to be.
I'm not a Karen. Although sometimes I'm forced to be one when people mess with my kids. That's a story for another day.
Well,
I'll save it.
It doesn't mean she's going to take your shit.
I'm not going to take her shit at all,
no.
For sure. But that doesn't make me a Karen. That just makes me a strong-ass lioness.
Yeah, there's a difference, yep.
So that's really interesting. Again, we are on the same wavelength because my next story is a hate crime against an Asian family. So very strange.
That's happening a lot, yeah.
So even though it is a Florida tourist, it's not a Florida man. So bear with me. Florida tourist charged with hate crime told Asian family to go back where they came from after kids pet his dogs. Okay?
Kids pet his dogs, and he goes ballistic.
Correct. So, all right. I'm going to give you three guesses to guess what state he's from, if not Florida. And I'll give you a hint. He was armed.
Let me see. Was it somewhere in the deep south? Do I have to be specific, or
you have to be specific with this? You have to be specific with the state. Now
Georgia,
think about
Georgia, Oklahoma.
No, come
Tennessee,
on, Morgan.
Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. A Texas man on vacation in Florida Panhandle this week is facing a hate crime charge after he allegedly physically assaulted a family of Asian descent and used racist language, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office announced Friday. According to the Sheriff's Office, witnesses said that 54-year-old tourist Wade Anton told an Asian woman and her children to, quote, go back where you came from, quote, and uttered a racial slur during a verbal altercation that took place Thursday afternoon at Beasley Park at Okaloosa Island. A news release posted to the Sheriff's Office official Facebook page said that Anton had been charged with, quote, a hate crime-related battery. Anton reportedly told Sheriff's Office deputies that the altercation began because the woman's children were petting his dog. According to the story, Anton said that he told the children to leave his dogs alone, but they ignored him. That's when things escalated. The woman's husband told the Sheriff's Office that Anton was approximately 25 feet away from his family when the verbal argument began, but then Anton, quote, ran around the park railings and began punching the husband repeatedly, end quote. The woman's husband also told deputies that Anton was running toward him, and he pulled out a handgun to protect himself. So he's running toward them and pulled out a handgun to protect himself. Okay. The two men were then separated by witnesses without anyone sustaining any serious injuries. Thank the gods. The Okaloosa Department of Corrections told local ABC News affiliate that Anton was taken into custody and was being held on a $10,000 bond as he awaited a preliminary hearing before a judge. Jail records show that Anton was released at 3:50 p.m. on Friday after making bond.
Well, I think it's going to be probably like 20 to 30 years before this kind of behavior is finally filtered out of society. It doesn't just go away overnight. So, and I have noticed it's mostly older guys who are doing this shit. Yep. So it's just, that, like I said, some of this behavior just takes a while to disappear, right?
They're just so angry, but like, why are you focusing you have one tiny little life, like a little speck of a, moment in the galaxy of galaxies of galaxies, and this is how you're gonna behave.
Some people are just not urban people. Some people really should live out in the middle of the sticks, where everyone's the same, Oh, you'd rather live out there?
Yes, I just want to be away from people because this is who are around and they terrify me.
Well, today I was really. You ever been in a mood where you just hate everyone and everything and just?
No, never. Only almost every day of my life.
Okay. So you mean you're a Cancer and you get crabby from time to time?
Oh, speaking of which, hang on. Let me check the date. All right, so 13th. Oh, no, so we have one more episode before my birthday.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Next week will be my birthday episode.
Is it going to be a COVID birthday, or are people actually going to come around?
I'm actually going to do nothing, I think. So, hang out with my cat, who's 17. Commiserate being old with her. It's fine.
And maybe you and I could go on cam and we could hang out, and that could be like our little, start up like a little room, multiple.
I'm into that. Yeah. It's actually my birthday. So my birthday's on Saturday the 26th, so the day after we technically have a recording on the 27th. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did that with my girlfriend, a couple of her friends. We had like you can have like 10 different screens going, so
I
we
know,
could.
it's so fun.
Oh, yeah. All right, so my next one is the headline is a Fort Bragg sergeant has been accused of killing another soldier.
Ooh.
To leave the country to get shot. Uh, Tiara Vinson, a soldier stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, is being held at Cumberland County Jail accused of murdering fellow soldier Keelia Horton. Vinson has been charged with first-degree murder and discharging a firearm into an occupied vehicle. At present, it is not known how she has entered a plea or retained a lawyer, but she is reportedly being held without bond. The violence also comes after a series of unfortunate and mysterious attacks at multiple U.S. Army bases over the course of the past year. According to police, the shooting occurred outside a home in Fayetteville, North Carolina, around 1:30 p.m. on May 7th. The suspect drove up to the residence where the victim was in her car in the driveway, and the suspect began shooting. There were a couple of witnesses that saw it and called it in. Was still when Lawson arrived on the scene, but died later at a nearby hospital. Horton and Vincent worked in different areas on the base, both in active duty, but Horton was a motor pool clerk assigned to the 525th Military Intelligence Brigade, and Vincent is a parachute rigger assigned to the 3rd Special Forces Group. However, Glass says the shooting wasn't a random incident. They had a mutual male friend in common. It wasn't an unknown person just going out and shooting an unknown person. Well, he can't have just been a platonic friend, right? So they were fighting over it. Yeah. Although they have not completely disclosed motive, Vincent reportedly had a former romantic relationship with the man who was in a relationship with Horton at the time of her death. The shooting took place outside of the man's home. A verbal altercation took place between the two. The defendant at that point began firing into the car. So Horton's death is one in a series of unrelated deaths on military bases in the last year. The body of Vanessa Guillen was discovered in July after she went missing from Fort Hood in Texas. Yeah. So yeah, it brings to mind this thing. See, there's a lot of there's this word hagiography comes to mind. If you're not familiar with that word, it means to build someone up in terms that make them look angelic. Like you see this in true crime a lot, where they make the victims out to be like angels. In reality, I mean, they certainly didn't deserve what happened to them, but I'm sure that they were just like you and me, in that they had strengths and weaknesses and had their faults, right?
We're all human.
But people build soldiers up as being almost perfect, but the reality is there's some shitty people in the military. There have been sexual harassment throughout the years, sexual assault between commanding officers subjecting female employees to that kind of abuse, and mass shootings and all kinds of crap, and there have been war crimes overseas. So it's not like all these people are perfect. Some of them have serious character flaws.
Well, not only that, but I mean, when you have somebody who's served and PTSD and all kinds of other mental issues, again, mental health needs to be addressed better, especially with our veterans and our military, because they've been through things that, I've been in healthcare for, a long time. I've been in healthcare for a long time. So I know firsthand, the medical care and the VA and how that works with our veterans and their medical care. And let me tell you, it's lacking.
Oh, yeah.
It's lacking, but even within the normal population, civilians, it's lacking. So
a big part of the homeless population is veterans with PTSD. They build you up with all. Yeah, you're going to go over there and you're going to kick ass and you're going to defend America and freedom and all this stuff. But you go over there and you find out killing people isn't quite as easy when you're actually face to face with them. And sometimes children get killed accidentally, and it's horrific, right? Watching close friends die in front of you, it's a horror show. So it's really.
I have personal friends who have dealt with that, and it's not a fun story to hear.
Yeah, and they prepare you in terms of physically, they get you in shape. They teach you how to shoot guns and other skills like that, but they don't prepare you psychologically for war. And that maybe they need to figure that out. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's a very good point. Like mental health before you are deployed. That's an interesting thought. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, like
very interesting thought.
They're going to see they do that with police, right? Because I've heard that when you're still like at the academic level of becoming a cop, one thing they do is one day they bring in cops who are experienced, and they tell you really, really disturbing things that they about, like the kind of stuff I cover in this podcast, and you.
Like the kind of stories Morgan does.
Yeah, it's just horrific shit, and you have to be able to listen to it and not cry, not get upset. Yeah. You have to keep your emotions in check, and maybe they have to do that with military personnel as well.
Maybe I actually wonder. I don't know if I'll have to ask some of my military friends. I don't know if they do that or not, but it's an interesting thought.
Yeah. All right, what's your next story?
I have a Walmart story for you. Do you want it?
All right, let's bring it on.
All right. Mother and son exemplify the Walmart shopper stereotype in Wisconsin. I just love this headline. I had to do it. And the headline after that is, "It's not every day that you get arrested for being a meme."
Yeah, that's true.
That's exactly what Lisa Smith, 46, and her son Benny Van, 25, both got to do inside a Walmart location in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, around 8:30 on April 11th, 2019. Officers were called to the scene after calls of a woman pulling apart store displays and placing them in her cart while after her dog, Bo, was running up to customers. Fortunately for the staff, they were able to make Smith leave the store, where she proceeded to perform karate moves. Unfortunately for the staff, her son Van was still inside, stripping himself and exposing himself to other customers. This isn't funny, I'm sorry. Yes, it is. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Smith calling for her dog, Bo, as he was performing oh my God, are you ready?
Yeah.
Her dog, Bo, as he was performing a heist on a box of Jiffy corn muffin mix.
Wow.
Smith fought with the officers and was ultimately arrested. Smith decided it would be a good idea to add extra charges by attempting to kick out the window of the police squad car. After Smith was arrested, officers attempted to approach Van, who at that point was putting on clothes from the store racks that he did not purchase. Van, who like his mother, decided to tack on extra charges by attempting to run over an officer with his scooter, again with the freaking scooters, Morgan. Luckily for the officers, the scooter posed a threat to no one and was ultimately stopped by the officers who arrested Van. Smith was hit with charges of resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and a misdemeanor bail jumping. Her son Van was arrested for lewd and disorderly conduct, retail theft, and lewd and lascivious behavior. Bo, the dog behind the corn muffin mix heist, was brought to the Humane Association and only issued a warning.
God. I think that there should be like a new version of that game show Supermarket Sweep, and they should do it at Walmart. Do it in Walmart with the weirdest people that come in, and they can with their weird outfits and all that shit.
That would be an amazing show.
I'd watch it. Yeah.
I'd watch it. Who wouldn't watch that?
Women who wear like they pull their sweatpants or leggings up over their chest and use that as a
Listen,
top.
I already told you if my boobs get that low, I'm totally doing it. I'm pulling my pants up over them. I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it. I'll be on the Woman of Walmart.
The best in Walmart fashions, right there.
Hey.
All right, so my next story is it's a fraud-related story. Actually, I haven't done anything fraud-related in this podcast before, but it's nevertheless. I think people who commit fraud are monsters in their own right. They do ruin people's lives. The CEO of Iowa's Make-A-Wish chapter admitted to embezzling thousands of dollars. The former CEO of the Iowa chapter of the Make-A-Wish Foundation pleaded guilty last week to charges of embezzling tens of thousands of dollars from the charity, which provides support to children with critical illnesses and their families. A charging document alleges that 40-year-old Jennifer Woodley embezzled nearly $41,000 in her role as CEO and president of the organization. She was fired after they launched a criminal investigation due to financial irregularities. So last year she opened up to the Des Moines Register about her own family struggle with critical illness.
I ran across this story, I think.
Oh, you've seen it before. She said both of her daughters needed brain surgery.
Yes. I almost did this story. God, we are on the same wavelength. I literally almost did this story, dude. Swear to God.
Well, I hate fraud because, I guess there are different aspects of it that bother me, like the people who target seniors and bilk them out of their life savings, because there's a lot of seniors who are lonely and their families just disregard them, and so these people call them up and they befriend them, and then eventually they rip them off. I hate pyramid schemes, how they exploit young people who are struggling to get jobs, and then everything or getting suckered into something that doesn't pay off. I just
spending a bunch of money to pay up front, and then
remember how hard it was when you first had to go and get a job and you didn't have experience and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'd see something in the paper like, pays $15 an hour, no experience necessary, and then you'd find out it's a scam, right?
Yeah, it's horrible.
So, yeah, that's why I went with that story. I really hate con artists.
And thieves. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
I can't stand a freaking thief, man.
No. Especially if they take Harry Potter collectibles, right?
Okay, you know what? Don't trigger me right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Don't you dare. Damn. Ugh.
Oh, I brought that. Can't even broach that subject, eh?
Not at my kids all over again.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, so what's your next story to get your mind off of that?
Wait, did I lose you? Where have you gone?
I finished with the embezzlement story.
Oh, there you are. Okay. All right, so this is actually my last story. It's a little lengthy, hopefully not too lengthy, but super interesting. And also, if you want to take this and please investigate it, because I had absolutely no idea about it. Mm-hmm. And it happened 30 minutes away from me, and part of it in my actual town in Fort Myers. So 27 years ago. So this is the first time I've heard of it. All right, so the title is Possible Victim in Infamous Hog Trial Murders, Identified Through DNA Testing 27 Years Later. Have you ever heard of the Hog Trial Murders?
Did you just say hog? H-O-G?
Hog, yeah.
1G?
1G.
Does this involve pigs or?
It does not. It's actually I guess it's where it happened.
See, I was thinking of
Hog Trail. I'm sorry, Hog Trail. So
it started to sound like one of Rosen Island's stories from St. Olaf on
St. Olaf.
a hog on trial. It seemed like something she'd talk about.
Oh my god. No, it's Hog Trail. Sorry. And by the way, I love that Morgan loves the Golden Girls because it's precious. Okay. So, all right. So I tried to find a little bit of a backstory on the case itself. I didn't want to go super into it because honestly, I'm not kidding. I want you to cover the story. But because it's 27 years later, and you know me with this new DNA testing I love to talk about, they have identified one of this man's victims, which I find extraordinary. So here we go. On February 1st, 1994, a mutilated corpse of a man was discovered in Punta Gorda. That is legit 40 minutes away from me, north. The body had been outside for about a month, and rope burns on the skin and the genitalia had been removed and discarded. The man was not identified until this month, when the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office announced that new DNA testing confirmed that the victim was Gerald, quote, Jerry Lombard of Lowell, Massachusetts. So now, on January 1st, 1996, a Northport family's dog brought home a male human skull. Police eventually pieced together much of the skeleton and determined that the genitalia had been cut out, similar to the 1994 victim, who was Lombard. The Northport skeleton had not been identified. A third man's mutilated body was discovered in the Northport area on March 7th, 1996. He had been killed only 10 days earlier. He also remained unidentified until June 1999, when he was identified as John William Millard. That's a really hard word to say. Millaragno. Sorry if I said that incorrectly.
Sure.
Another man's skull was found in Charlotte County on April 17th, 1996. Police searched the surrounding woods and found the rest of the man as well as a second body. The second was a man who had been raped, murdered, and mutilated only the day before and was identified as Richard Allen Montgomery. The first body was later identified as Keith Lee Smith. Speculation became rampant about a serial killer, and the media dubbed the murders the Hog Trail killings, named after the wooded areas in which the bodies of the victims were found. Okay. So in May 1996, a few witnesses directed police to Daniel Conahan, including one who had escaped him when Conahan's car became stuck while driving him down a dirt road. Later, police linked Conahan to a 1994 Fort Myers police report, "Hi, that's my town," where Stanley Burden was then had been propositioned, tied to a tree, and nearly strangled. Burden survived and had rope scars on his body 2 years later. Conahan's credit cards were subpoenaed and his house was searched, turning up evidence linking him to both Burden and Montgomery. On July 3rd, 1996, Conahan was arrested and brought to Lee County, again where I live, for the attempted murder of Burden. The following February, he was charged with the murder of Montgomery, while the attempted murder charges in the Burden case were dropped. While Conahan awaited trial, another skeleton was found in Charlotte County on May 22nd, 1997. 10 months later, DNA identified the remains as William Charles Patton, who had disappeared in 1993. So now, this month.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Well, like, you know, this is the golden age of true crime that's going on right now.
It's outstanding.
It's big in podcasts and it's big on, you know, Netflix, and with DNA. So it kind of dovetails with the whole thing. So I'm never gonna run out of material, I guess.
Exactly, and this story. I did the story because I keep talking about that DNA evidence and the family history and all that, and we're going to go into it right now and why I love it. So John Doe number 1, this is this guy that was just identified. A possible victim of the alleged Hog Trail murder serial killer has been identified nearly 3 decades after his mutilation and decomposing body was found in Port Charlotte, Florida. In a statement Wednesday, Charlotte County Sheriff's Office announced that new DNA testing has confirmed the identity of the previously unknown murder victim as Gerald Jerry Lombard, a Massachusetts man who went missing in the early 1990s. Lombard's body was discovered by authorities on February 1st, 1994, after a local construction company worker reported a human body in the woods near Wyandotte Avenue and Tulip Street in northern Charlotte County. At the time, the man was given the name John Doe Number 1 when investigators were unable to determine his identity or cause of death. Though some of the bodies were identified in the 90s during an investigation into the killings, John Doe Number 1's identity remained a mystery and his case went cold. In 2013, a cold case team sent John Doe Number 1's tooth to a lab for DNA testing in an effort to identify him. By the way, hats off to the cold case people who still worked this case. Outstanding. Yes. So they sent a tooth in an effort to identify him, according to a news release from the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. The process took 7 years, and investigators were able to narrow down a list of his potential relatives due to DNA findings in 2020. Quote, after contacting the family, it was determined that this was a large family of 17 siblings. And one of the brothers, Gerald Jerry Lombard, had not been seen or heard from since approximately 1991 or 92, end quote, a statement from the sheriff's office read. According to authorities, a niece in the family had submitted her DNA to Ancestry.com a few years ago, which was likely how the genetic genealogy match was made. So there you go. Investigators were able to identify John Doe Number 1 as Lombard after DNA testing samples obtained from his sister, brother, and son. Daniel Conahan was convicted for the murder of Richard Montgomery, one of 4 men found in the 2 years following the discovery of Lombard's body in 1997. Conahan, now 67, is currently on death row in the Florida State Prison. Due to circumstances surrounding Lombard's death, investigators believe Conahan to be a suspect in his murder, and the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office cold case team is continuing their investigation. Authorities have asked anyone who knew Jerry Lombard or may have seen him with Daniel Conahan to contact detectives at area code 941-639-2101. Hurrah, cold case investigators and DNA. Absolutely outstanding.
I did the ancestry DNA thing. I wonder if any of my relatives would turn out to be serial killers.
That's what I'm afraid of, Morgan. That's what I'm afraid of. But that's how I'm. That was my last story. That's how I'm ending it, because that's a even though horrible 30 years later, outstanding police work, DNA evidence. I love it. This is what we live for, and I hope many more people come out.
Don't defund the police.
Don't defund the police.
That's right. Okay, so this is I chose my last story actually because of you, because
you did?
do a lot of coaching. You coach your son's soccer team. Have you done any other coaching before?
Nope, just soccer.
Okay. Well,
I'm on a break right now, but I do have like 57 jobs. So.
Well, have you ever defined like any of the other moms get a little too involved in it, where they're like screaming at referees or anything like that?
I am that mom.
Oh, you're that.
No, I'm just kidding. We don't have referees because my kids are too little. But I got into coaching because, first of all, I'm passionate about it, and it's my son and my sons, and the kids are awesome and they're so willing to learn. But also, I want to be able to teach them and push them and drive them.
Oh,
and not just like, oh, it's all fun and games. It is all fun and games, but also you need to grow and learn and be, practice and stuff. So, okay.
Well, this story is about how a mother's over-involvement in her children's activities took the path to the dark side. So the headline is, this cheerleading mom wanted to destroy her daughter's teammates, so she used deepfakes. In July 2020, a mother of a Victory Vipers cheerleader in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, report. Someone was harassing her teenage daughter and sending doctored images of the underage girl to make it appear as if she were naked, vaping, and drinking. Shortly after, 2 more families came forward with similar stories. Their daughters, all members of the same cheerleading squad, were being targeted by an unknown person with doctored photos and videos. But it was the eventual suspect that caused concern and confusion among the 3 girls' families. On March 4th, authorities arrested who they believed to be the person behind the coordinated harassment campaign. Rafaela Spone, 50 years old, allegedly harassed members of her own daughter's cheerleading squad for months. Spone, who now faces 3 misdemeanor counts of cyber harassment of a child, among other related offenses, allegedly began members of the Vipers cheerleading squad for months. I think she's Italian. I guess the name is supposed to be pronounced Spone. Spone is being accused of lifting photos from their social media accounts and altering them to make it look like the girls were drinking and vaping, sometimes while naked or while wearing bikinis. In one instance, the Spone allegedly urged a 17-year-old girl to kill herself. I do get hate comments.
She's a psychopath. She's a psychopath.
Oh, yeah. The girl said, I do get hate comments. Nothing to this extreme, but I was really upset. Who says this to someone? Who thinks it's okay? It made me more mad than upset. Spone is said to have sent doctored videos and pictures of the girls to the cheerleading squad's coaches and gym owners. And affidavit of probable cause was to get the girls kicked off the squad, a known consequence for vaping or drinking while underage. Spone also allegedly sent text messages and made phone calls to the gym for multiple phone numbers, according to authorities. The next statement was made by another cheerleader. I felt like if I said to someone I like, no one would trust me. They had the video on proof, even though the video wasn't real. I didn't know how to protect her from that. I think it was, her mother said, I didn't know how to protect her from that. I didn't know who to protect her from. There were a lot of sleepless nights. So how exactly did Rafaela Spone finally get caught in her cheered tower of lies? Police were able to track an IP address and phone numbers back to her home and alleged she used her smartphone to send messages, doctored photos, and deepfake videos via an app that enabled her to hide her number. We've always taken for granted that a photo is a photo, a video is a video, said District Attorney. We can't take that for granted anymore. There's no indication that Spone's daughter was aware of her mother's actions, and the daughter's completely blameless in this, said the attorney. Spone herself has denied the allegations and the charges, and her lawyer said, we are going to aggressively fight this. It said if Spone is convicted, she'll face a maximum penalty of 6 years in prison, given that she has no prior criminal history. So that's an extreme example of helicopter parenting right there.
That's not helicopter parenting. That is cyberbullying, number one. And also, I'm concerned that now her child has to deal with the fact that her mother did this, which is appalling. I am not that person, by the way. I lift my kids up. That is just a level of, you know what, Morgan, and you know me, the mother thing, like being maybe jealous, maybe a little bit of jealousy there. I don't know. if that's where that's going. And it's cyberbullying, though. It's bullying children.
Well, most helicopter parents don't fire missiles as well. You launch attacks, but I mean, it's like there's a thing in a lot of elementary schools where mothers stand by the playground at recess watching their kid to make sure they're not getting pushed around. So some mothers kind of go loony and get. So that's something that happens.
But that's part of life. I mean, that's how your children grow. Is by having to deal with those sort of things, because if they're sheltered their entire life, then they are going to go and fail. So
like you have to accept the fact you can't be there every second of their lives.
I can't.
You know.
I can't.
And it wouldn't be appropriate. So.
No, it wouldn't be appropriate. Just they've gotten into my son has gotten into an altercation this year. Oh God, it was like his first school altercation, and I was like, okay, all right, buddy, what happened? And apparently somebody was like bullying one of his friends, and he stood up for his. So I was like, all right, you stood up for somebody that was being bullied. That's okay. Like, I'll accept that. That's, I couldn't get too hard on him because in his eyes, was it the right, I go, in the future, here's the way we should, approach the subject. Not because he actually, I don't even want to put it out there. He didn't handle it appropriately, but he did what he had to do. But we corrected the action. I said, listen, next time let's try this instead of this. But he was standing up for a friend who was being bullied, so I couldn't get too angry.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole issue of boys fighting, I mean, there's quite a bit of gray area there for me, because I feel like, boys should learn to fight back if they're being picked on, but I know they don't want fighting at school, and so there's kind of, it's a complicated issue, I think,
Well, and that's kind of part of growing up as a boy, especially with brothers. I've read a couple articles that when they fight, that, like, just like lion cubs fight, that's how they learn. That's how they learn to defend themselves and learn how to be, lions or men. They learn with each other. So I don't.
Well, it's not just you and your son's father who are raising them. Your oldest son is also partially raising your youngest son as well.
Correct. 100%.
Do they fight?
They do. They fight. It's like not hardcore yet because they're still little, but yeah, they fight. But they also, my oldest walks my youngest into school every single morning when I drop him off with his arm around his shoulder.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's the sweetest thing. Yeah, he protects his brother. Yeah,
I saw a picture. I think maybe I had it on Facebook or something where they were tired in the car and one of them had his head on the other's shoulder.
Yep. Yeah, his big brother looks out for little brother 100%, and I think it's the sweetest thing. But he'll also, just like I was, because I'm the oldest of four, I'm allowed to be mean to my siblings, but you're not. That's different.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now we move on to true crime. Would you rather? So I have 5 of those.
Oh my gosh, I'm not even prepared with any yet.
That's okay. We'll just do mine then.
Okay.
So my first one is, which fictional serial killer would you prefer to be murdered by and why? Hannibal Lecter or Patrick Bateman from American Psycho?
Ooh. Hannibal Lecter. Yeah. Intelligent, thoughtful, kind of intriguing, alluring. You're feeling it. I like that. I dare say sexy, but that's not the appropriate word. But this is human. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it's the vibe of Hannibal that I like.
Well, I'm trying to think of what's worse, getting bitten or having someone like chop you with an axe. I wonder what's worse, because getting bitten would take a lot longer. And Patrick Bateman might also use the chainsaw, which would be really fucked up too.
Exactly. I don't want a chainsaw. So I'm going with Hannibal for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going with Hannibal.
So who would you prefer to cook for you, Jeffrey Dahmer or Mansa Musa Muhammad? So I'm talking about Jeffrey Dahmer before he was arrested. He's already cooking many human flesh delicacies, and he's going to serve you a part of somebody's body. Or Mansa Musa Muhammad, who might force you to eat your own feces.
I'm going with the former.
Jeffrey Dahmer?
I'm not being forced to eat mine. We're not doing like what's the name of that disgusting movie I refused? Human Centipede. I, by the way, will never watch that.
So I saw that.
Don't talk about it. I'm not doing it. Going with Dahmer.
I loved Roger Ebert's review of that movie. He just said, he didn't give it any stars. He just said, I'm not even going to designate it a movie. I'm just leaving it as an entity that exists independently of everything.
That's the way I feel. That is literally the way I sum it up. Perfect. Yep, that's it. Perfectly said.
All right. The next one is by the way, I would rather eat at Jeffrey Dahmer's place too. I would try human. But there was some kind of ethical cannibalism where people volunteered to allow people to butcher them after they die, and it was consensual, and so you could try human flesh under those circumstances. I would try it. And apparently, according to cannibals, like tribal cannibals, we taste like pork. So that's what I know about human flesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is, so say you're 9 years old again. Who would you rather have as a foster parent? Gertrude Benichevsky or Barbara Atkinson, Lauren Kavanaugh's mother?
Remind me of Lauren.
Gertrude Benichevsky. Yeah, so Gertrude Benichevsky was just horribly abusive to this girl, Sylvia Likens.
I remember her.
Took like a hot needle and carved the words "I'm a prostitute and proud of it." And then and of course Lauren Kavanaugh in the closet 6 years, starved her, only took her out to paper.
Dude, that's a hard one. That's impossible. That's an impossible situation.
Yeah, it is. I would go with Benichevsky because at least Sylvia Likens got to go to school. She should have reported everything that was happening. Not that I'm blaming her. I can be for victims, but she at least had that, whereas Lauren Kavanaugh's situation was much more hopeless. But
that's where I'm kind of going. That's where I was heading to. So I'm going to go with you on that. We both are similar minded, I believe. So yeah, I'll stick with the same. God.
All right. So the next one involves cults. So which of these cults would you rather join? The Manson family or the Jim Jones People's Temple?
Oh my God, I'm so excited about this question. Okay. Jim Jones.
Jim Jones. Well, everything was cool until they committed suicide, I guess.
Exactly.
Right?
Everything was chill. Everything was like even though you were being mentally kind of messed with all the time because you didn't know when you were actually going to have to die, but it was kind of chill and hippie and vibing, and the Manson thing was just too radical. So yeah, I'm definitely Jones for sure.
Well, whenever I read the story of a cult, I always end up having that thought when I read the story of a cult where I think, they had me until blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, it sounded like this is a great idea. They went out to the country and had their own, and they were self-reliant on the land, and everything was cool. They didn't have to deal with society anymore. But it just seems like it's inevitable. People are going to get sexually abused or mass suicide or the
Don't
the
drink the Flavor Aid. Don't drink the Flavor Aid.
Well, a lot of really bad shit happened in the Manson family. Like, they would have these orgies, and the children eventually got involved, which obviously is not good at all. It's funny because he would get the girls if there was a male he was dealing with who was not part of the family, he would get the girls to sleep with him as I guess like currency or something. But it got to a point where none of the men would touch the girls anymore. They had so much VD. They were just disgusting down there. Just their vaginas were just petri dishes of venereal disease. And then also there was a thing where a couple of the girls went to these dumpsters behind a grocery store to rift through them to find like old produce that was still. And one time a manager caught them, and he told them to get out of there, but they offered to perform sexual favors if he would let them. So
because
they were prostituting themselves for
they were groomed to do that by him.
Prostituting themselves for garbage. That's loyalty.
That's
all right.
A record of loyalty that I am not gonna go to, darling. But you know,
no.
I'm all into Jones until you make me drink Flavor Aid, and then I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the last one is this is a prison one. You're in prison.
Shit.
Which would you prefer, getting shanked or getting raped?
Shanked.
So you prefer a big bird violate you?
Yeah, 100%. No one's gonna violate me.
Yeah.
I can't live that down. I can maybe survive the shanking, but not the latter.
Survive that. You probably wish you were dead. So
yeah, exactly. I think the mental repercussions would be harder to deal with than the physical. Although that also would be mental, but you know what I'm saying.
Did you ever see the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
I did.
I wish that technology existed where you could go in and have memories, specific memories erased. Wouldn't that be nice if you could just never think about certain things again?
I would pay cash money to be able to have that.
I think it would be hugely popular. Yeah, I have a lot of those things. I'd have an account there.
Hey, Morgan, that's why. But if we did that, would we have Human Monsters podcast?
Well,
not.
I think I probably would.
I don't know.
There's just some shit. Well, there certainly wouldn't be those episodes about bullying and abuse that were autobiographical on my part. Obviously, those wouldn't exist.
Right.
But I don't.
Listen, you're stronger because of what you've been through, because you have been through it, and we came out on the other side. And cheers to you, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't think that. I don't know how many people. Well, there are a lot of other people who listen to the podcast who have had trauma too. You'd think that they'd have triggers, but I guess it is part of that process.
It is. I think it is. I would be interested in that. If you guys want to comment in the Facebook page or whatever, I'm interested to know, because we've talked about kind of why we're, true crime obsessed, and why I listen to the things I do and why Morgan does. So what are some of the reasons why y'all listen?
Yeah, as far as people, meditating over why they're interested in true crime, I've been interested in knowing for a while now why it's mostly appealing to women. Someone said that it gives them an opportunity to find out how those offenders tick and to know what to look out for. But I'm thinking there must be a lot more to it than that.
I don't know. That's my reasoning. But I'm sure I have some deep psychological issues that probably have some reason why. Lord, who knows? But I like the would you rather piece. I think some others enjoy it too. Yeah. So I'm gonna come up with some of my own.
So are you unable to watch horror movies? You prefer real horror as in true crime?
Oh no, I love horror movies. I love horror movies. Yeah. Love them.
I can't watch. It's funny. I can't watch them stoned. I tried watching A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, which is one of my favorite horror movies, and because I'm just sitting there bummed out, like this is horrible. You know what I mean?
See, I'm the
Whereas,
opposite. I can focus when I'm I'm like, I'm really into this story right now. And then I'm yelling at people on the TV for not doing the right shit. So I get really into it and invested in it.
yeah, yeah. I guess if I watched all horror movies stoned, I'd probably be more scared by them. But at any rate, so yeah, we came in at just over 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I would say it's probably time to go.
Good times.
So,
I hope everyone stuck with it and enjoyed.
We're going to do the true crime Would You Rather as a separate segment in the future. So that should be a lot of fun. Right. Well, thank you very much for joining me this week, Rachel.
Of course. My pleasure as usual, Morgan. I appreciate you. I like this at the end of my week. It kind of is a horrible decompressing that I love.
Yeah.
Morbid. It's good for me. So I appreciate y'all sticking in and look forward to my birthday session and Would You Rather horror edition.
Yeah, we can do. That's right. We can keep going darker and darker too.
Oh God, help us. You scare me when you say that, by the way. I just want you to know.
Oh, I'll take you there. That's for sure.
I know. Oh Lord, have a good week, y'all. Lord, help me.
Take care now.
All right, darling. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.